Good afternoon. I'm Anna Fotyga, Polish member of the European Parliament. Today I was privileged to host the event dedicated to war waged by Russian Federation on Ukraine, full-scale invasion since February 24 this year, and regional efforts of Central and Eastern Europe member states and actions to relief actions, hosting millions of Ukrainians fleeing the war to nearby countries or to other places in Ukraine. I'm happy now to host two of my distinguished panelists. But first and foremost, let me give the floor now to the dear guest from Ukraine, MP Ivanna Klympush-Tsintsadze, chair of the Verkhovna Rada European Affairs Committee, a long-standing friend of many of us.
Thank you.
Ivanka, we are so proud of all of you. We really pay tribute to heroism of all Ukrainians defending their country. We want to do our best to ease your life that is so awful. It is so painful, actually, to listen to every news coming from Ukraine. Please tell us about situation 84 days after full-scale invasion.
Well, thank you very much, Anna. Thank you for all your efforts here, of yourself and also of all the colleagues from the European Parliament, because this House has been showing the example to many national governments and parliaments how the political decisions could be made in terms of helping Ukraine. So for us, it's very important to feel that we are not alone. When we are being destructed, when we are being killed, as a nation, we are being erased by Russian Federation from the map of the world. And definitely that's something that we cannot allow. For us, it's totally existential war, and for us, there is a definite need to survive by defending what we believe in. And what we believe in is something that European Union is based on, is built on. Those values and freedoms that people enjoy here, and we believe that we Ukrainians have proven our total adherence to these values and to these principles and to the rules of the Union. So that's why one of the lines of discussion here and hope for support from the parliamentarians in the European Parliament, even though you've already supported it through resolutions, is to call on nations to support our candidate status in the European Union. That's a political decision, and we hope that it will be made already soon at the end of June in the European Council. We're counting on your governments as well to support it. But definitely that's something that we would anticipate giving Ukrainian people, 93% of Ukrainian people today are supporting European integration, a ray of light, and a hope, how after our victory, and that should be how we will build the country. But first and foremost, we have to focus on our victory, and that cannot be achieved exclusively by Ukrainian courage and Ukrainian heroism. We need backing up from the free world, and that is first and foremost humanitarian aid in weaponry. However strange it sounds, because weapons will decide whether we will have the instruments to get those occupants and those aggressors out of our motherland. Secondly, obviously, we would like to see really comprehensive sanctions being further introduced and additional pressure on Russian Federation to be made. We have to ensure altogether that Russia is defeated, that Russia is isolated, that Russia will not have another chance to wage another war of aggression on anybody in the world, and that all the other dictatorships, all the other autocracies will never dare to attack another country and try to take the territory and kill the people by force. So therefore, I think it's our common task, and that is about our common values. And that is, and the very important thing right now is obviously the humanitarian relief and aid and welcoming of the Ukrainian displaced people. We are hoping that they are temporarily displaced, that those are not refugees, and that those people will be able to return back home. So we are grateful to all the nations that have been already rendering support, opening your families, your homes to Ukrainians who have fled the war outside of the country. And we hope that your efforts will not be diminishing. And we hope that there won't be fatigue from this barbaric war in European continent, in the Euro-Atlantic community, because we have to ensure that we are mobilized, united, commonly strong to defeat the enemy that is posing the threat not exclusively to Ukraine, but to the whole free world.
Thank you, my dear. Actually, I would say that you speak my language, but naturally it is the other way around. It is myself listening to you Ukrainians carefully and trying to deliver this message outside as well. We have two distinguished panelists who are particularly engaged in promoting transatlantic cooperation. One and very important is my dear Slovak colleague, MEP Miriam Lexmann, representing EPP, who was also describing the situation in Slovakia and relief efforts by Slovak people and elite Slovak state. But also we were able to host director of Transatlantic Institute of American Jewish Committee, Daniel Schwammenthal, who particularly engages in supporting transatlantic cooperation. How this important, valuable line of cooperation between EU and our transatlantic partners, US and of course Canada, how important it is to effectively help Ukraine and give us additional power in resisting Russian atrocities towards the east of our borders.
It's absolutely critical, and thank you so much, Anna, for organizing this event and convening us here. The transatlantic relationship is really part of our DNA at the American Jewish Committee. This is why we have this office here, and this is why we have long supported Central Europe and Baltic states and our friends in Ukraine, back supporting the recognition of Baltic independence, supporting NATO expansion, and supporting Ukraine since the first invasion in 2014. And it is absolutely critical here that the West is coming together because the fight for Ukrainian sovereignty is a worthy goal in and of itself. But it is also so critical for all of us, what the Ukrainians are doing, and it may not have yet sunk in with everybody in Europe and the United States, but what they are doing is not just defending their sovereignty and their freedom, but all of our security and our values. And this is why this has to be a truly transatlantic fight. And as you said, we must ensure that Ukraine wins, because the alternative would be a constant threat and insecurity in all of Europe. And luckily, it looks like it could always be better, but we are already quite positively surprised at how Europe is coming together, how the United States is coming together. Also in the United States, we have a lot of partisanship and politicization, but on this issue, the United States is united, and both parties are united. The U.S. Congress is poised to approve a package for Ukraine, which would total $53 billion. And again, of course, we must ensure that this support continues, including, of course, weapons, but also humanitarian aid, and the future of Western freedom and liberty and prosperity is at stake, nothing less.
Miriam, I turn to the MEP Miriam Lexmann now. We heard during the event, about 3 cases, 3 countries supporting Ukrainians fleeing the war in Ukraine in the region, Poland, Slovakia, and Moldova. What is your reflection about the region and our role in preserving European security as well, and what can be done, what more can be done, and in particular, what assistance we may require from international institutions in order to effectively deliver necessary assistance, humanitarian assistance, but also to eradicate difficulties that we nowadays face, because the region is not the richest within the EU. And yet we opened our hearts, we opened our homes, we spare no effort and time to promote the case. What is your reflection?
Yes, I would echo what was already said, that the war in Ukraine is a war for the very foundational values on which the European Union was built. And that's why it's a war we need to help Ukraine to win, because it's also our war. It's a war for the living standards we are sharing at the moment. And unfortunately, the Ukrainians are at the forefront, and that's why we have to back them up in any possible case we can find out. On the other hand, what I would highlight is that the European unity as well as transatlantic unity here is very important, and coordination and cooperation. And in terms of the EU, I would also highlight that we have to really put aside all ideological fights, and we have to unite, and we have to look at our common goals and bring the citizens along. Because unfortunately, disinformation, ideological differences, also the differences between the East and West within the EU are making fertile soil for dividing lines, and we cannot afford them at the moment. So this is very important, that we look and make any effort in building unity, and also as a community of European community, and also within the transatlantic cooperation, help the states which are at the forefront, which are receiving Ukrainian refugees, and make sure that these countries are able to provide the necessary help. And the help is not turning against these countries in terms that the domestic population will be tired of fighting on 2 fronts, helping Ukrainians, as well as seeing the increase of prices, feeling uncertainties about their future, about the future of their children. This is very important. And I would maybe highlight one more issue. the war is being waged as a physical war, but there is also this unseen war, which is the disinformation war going on. Slovakia, unfortunately, is one of the most countries which is infected by the war, because there is a different attitude on many issues of the Slovak populations than the general average population in Europe. For example, in Slovakia, the majority of people still support economic cooperation with Russia and still are standing against the sanctions, or the majority of the population doesn't agree or doesn't support the sanctions, which the European Union took as a moral step. I mean, because unless we will continue, I mean, if we would continue with the economic cooperation with Russia, we would be morally co-responsible for the killing of the people in Ukraine. And this is a very moral step we need to do. Unfortunately, we could have done more in order to prevent this war in the past. And we know that, and we need to also come back to these issues. Our failures, why we did not more, why we could not see where this is heading and change our attitudes, our economic cooperation with Russia and the international setting within which we existed. We need to analyze this too, but we also need to stop financing this war through our economic cooperation with Russia. And this is very important to explain this to the people. But it's difficult to come with these explanations where the social media are flooded with disinformation and fake narratives, lies, trying to change the main opinion of the population. And we need to bring the social platforms on board with us. They need to understand that they are part of the West and they're part of this war in terms that they can help to win or help to support victory for freedom and democracy, or they can be part of the problem. And I think this is very important. The American Congress yesterday asked Facebook to do their utmost to fight against disinformation in Slovakia, and I believe this is a very important step. And I would highlight the final issue is what I really regret, that the party from Slovakia, which is the party of a former prime minister, which is part of the S&D family here in Europe, is spreading disinformation and lies and is joining the far fringes of the political spectrum in their narratives, which are not based on truth. Today, during the war, truth is the most important way to the victory of democracy and freedom, our key values, and we have to, as a community, unite in seeking truth and pointing out the truth. And unfortunately, if a party which is still part of the European family, S&D family, is deviating from this path and deviating from truth and sharing lies, this needs to be discussed and this needs to be pointed out into and resolved within the European Union, because this is also a key part of the solution, that we are united, and in a united way we can help Ukraine, we can support Ukraine in their fight for our own freedom and democracy. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Today's event was about just one part of our efforts, about relief efforts of Central and Eastern Europe, selected 3 countries, including Moldova, because today we have Maia Sandu, President of Moldova, in the European Parliament, addressing the chamber, Poland and Slovakia. But I would like to stress what Ivanka put earlier, that war that Ukrainian people have to face on their territory, defending their country, is in accordance with international standards, aggression, unprecedented aggression of Russian Federation on sovereign country. And our final aim is to assist Ukraine to have fully territorially integrated, according to international law, country, including Crimea. That is our aim. I think that with this we put it very clear what was topic for so many years here in the European Parliament. On 18th of May, we commemorate anniversary of first deportations of Crimean Tatars. On 21st of May, Circassians commemorate earlier 19th century genocide of Circassians perpetrated by Russians for the first time in modern history. What happens now in Ukraine, according to my best knowledge, means numerous war crimes, and I'm convinced that there are clear signs of crime against humanity. There are many topics for seeing to putting perpetrators before courts, international courts, and achieving justice after defeating Russia is also our aim. All the best. God bless you.
Thank you, and thank you for your support in the future. And Slava Ukraini.
Slava Ukraini.
Slava Ukraini.